I'm at the Virtual Reality Racing Club at Silverstone, and I thought you guys would like to see this because they've got this awesome front end of a Formula cockpit set up as a driving simulator. And I think, you know, how cool would it be to have literally the front of a cockpit to do your sim racing in? So I'm going to take you through this simrig simulator for a little bit of a test drive and a little bit of walkthrough of what equipment is in it. So just to walk you through the rig before we jump in, what we have here is a really nice Cube Controllers Formula rim, which is attached to a Simucube direct drive wheelbase. As you know, I'm a huge fan of direct drive wheelbases because you get absolutely phenomenal, strong, precise, detailed force feedback from your simulators. You need a DD, otherwise don't bother. But now you're all right with cheaper wheels, don't worry about it. But the Simucube is absolutely fantastic. These Cube Control wheels are really nice. So we've got that DD solution for the steering. We've then got Hoosing valve pedals for the brake, accelerator and clutch. But this is a Formula car, so you're only going to need the brake and the accelerator. Obviously you can see here we have a curved triple screen solution with them using AOC monitors. Which gives you a nice surrounded view of things, and at VRC what they've done is they've actually made it so that the monitors are close to the driver. When I've seen a lot of these Formula type cockpit rigs, they'll have the cockpit, which looks really nice, but then they'll have monitors a quarter of a mile away, so the you know, the field of view is a bit awkward, or you just don't get that immersion unless you're using like a VR headset. But here they've got it set up absolutely spot on, so hopefully when I sit in it'll be really nice and immersive. Also worth saying, they do have actual buttons on here that allow you to control the position of the pedals, which is really cool because obviously the pedals are within the nose cone of this cockpit, so it's a bit awkward to get to them. So electronic pedals, I would totally have them. Really great for those of you that are lazy like me and enjoy lazy sim racing. So climbing into the sim rig like some kind of crazed bold monkey, and the first thing you notice when getting into a cockpit like this is the fact that you're actually getting into a literal Formula cockpit, and with that comes an innate amount of immersion, which is really weird. You would think, oh, you'd have to be driving and playing the sim to actually feel immersed, but literally just having the cockpit around you, surrounding you, makes you feel like you're in a Formula car. Even if you had a VR headset on, you would still be aware that you're in a Formula cockpit because you can feel the sides of the cockpit either side of you, and then obviously I'm in a Formula seating position, so that's really, really nice. And kind of, you might think one of these rigs is a little bit of a gimmick. I mean, there's a little bit of gimmick nature to it, but you do actually get a weird immersion from it. So what's going to be even more immersive than just sitting in it will be actually driving. So we're going to attach the Cube controls on here, and the Cube control wheels have a really nice quick release system that's like super quick and releases super quick. That's why they're called quick releases, but it's really nice how it clicks on and it's really, really firm, no woggle or movement or anything, which is awesome. And I have to say the Cube wheel also feels fantastic. But we also have these two buttons here on the dash that allow us to move the pedals forwards and backwards. So I've got them, just push the button there, and my feet are resting nicely on the accelerator and brake pedal, and we are ready to get driving for my first time in a very tight, very claustrophobic, but somewhat realistic Formula rig. Here we go. Out the pits. Woo! Now I have to say, obviously, I'm always a huge fan of Assetto Corsa myself, and I find AC actually has some of the nicest to drive, a little bit loose there on the throttle, some of the nicest to drive Formula cars, because you actually have a little bit of give and play at the limit, so it actually allows you to mess around with the vehicles and really dance with them. He says, trundling around the corner really slowly. So let's get some nice fast laps in here. Really nicely with this Formula cockpit as well. Obviously my legs are elevated a bit, and then the bottom of my legs are supported by the cockpit, which is nice. Again, it's weird how just the seating position can actually change the perception and feeling of what you're doing. Oh, and of course with these curved monitors surrounding this, I've got a really great view of the track. I'm just driving around by myself here, but you know, if I had other vehicles, I could just glance left and right, or even just glance my eyes left and right, not move my head, and be able to see if someone was making a move on me. Also, I have to say, these monitors have a really nice smooth refresh. Frame rate's absolutely fantastic, and I need to brake more for that, and I also need a bit more rear brake bias, but I'll get on with it. Bring the tools. Driver complains about the tools. World first. There's the wing as he goes past there. But, you know, it's absolutely incredible, the fidelity that you get from a Simcube DD wheelbase. I really love how precise the force feedback is from them. And then, as I say, we've got Husingveld pedals on here as well. Oi, too much throttle. And I'm using Husingveld Ultimates at the moment on my home sim rig. And again, I'm a massive fan of Husingveld equipment. But it's always the case, actually, when you're using other people's sim rigs, that it's a little bit tricky to jump in and drive, because obviously the settings are not exactly what you have dialed in at home. But I'd say the force feedback on this is quite similar to what I have on my home setup. Not too strong, but nice and precise, nice and informative. Good sort of intermediary. I think this sort of 90s Formula car in real life would probably have absolutely monster force feedback on it, but I ain't got the strength for that, mate. And that is the nice thing with driving sims, you can set them up however you want. Look at this. Getting into that the sim zone here. Now, I do think these sort of cockpits are not necessarily the best cockpits for a home solution, obviously. You know, they're not the most practical getting in and out of. But where I think these kind of cockpits really make sense, bloody hell, my driving's terrible, where these sort of front end of a Formula car cockpits really make sense is for events and venues, and even like driver training. You know, if someone's going to get into a real Formula car, and even if they're using a VR headset, just to get them really familiar with the position and then the wheel, and you know, just so you actually are as one-to-one as possible with the real car. And then obviously for someone that's not intending to drive a real car, it's just it's a sort of spectacular thing, you know. If you're younger as well and you're like, oh, you feel like you're actually sat inside of a vehicle as opposed to a more open but highly functional sim rig. And the nice thing is with Assetto Corsa, of course, as software, is that you could drive any Formula 1 car from any point in time. You can't put a price on that. I mean, how amazing is Assetto? Look at this. Try and do get a bit more speed. But also worth noting, actually, about this cockpit is that the rig itself is completely rock solid. So the way this is being constructed, it's not just like a sort of flimsy plastic shell. It actually, there's no movement. This feels very similar in rigidity to my T-slot sim rig at home. In fact, there's none of the vibrations from the wheel coming through the side of the cockpit that my arms are resting on. So this thing's built like a tank. Whoa, too much throttle. Catch it, try and balance it a little bit. But there you go. Coming across the start-finish line, I'll park it up here. I have to say, as my first time using a sort of mock Formula cockpit, a really nice experience just being sat in the cockpit. It probably looks a bit silly on video and it probably seems superficial, but it genuinely does actually have quite a big effect on immersion. So if you ever get a chance to use one of these, maybe you could come to Silverstone and you could go to the VRRC Centre to try one out. Or if you found one somewhere else, I highly recommend jumping on in it and giving it a go, because you'll enjoy the experience. But there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this introduction to half front of Formula cockpit simulators, and my talk and drive. But if you did, make sure you click that like button, make sure you subscribe, and most importantly, drink far too much tea. Take care, and goodbye everyone.